Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this chatter I'd like to talk about, there's been a few studies that have come out over the last few months. I don't know how reliable these studies are. They all seem to be propaganda these days, and I haven't bothered to do a deep dive into the authors of it. But these studies have said that women prefer to marry men who've got high incomes and stable earning capacity, and also women prefer to date and marry men who are taller and heavier build than they are, so physically larger, in other words. So this is I don't know if we really needed sort of much in the way of studies to substantiate this, but given that the last certainly 25 years of the education system, if not a bit longer, have been stacked full of feminist ideology and endless left-wing social division nonsense, and much of it to diminish and ridicule straight white males. You'd think that paradigm of looking for a woman looking for a higher income earning, physically larger male would be dissipating, and I think it may be a little bit, but overall most girls, and I think there'd be rare exceptions here, taking out things like lesbians and so on. Most girls and young women would be looking forward to the rich Hollywood movie star, the handsome hunk, and all that sort of stuff. So now, just in line with that, some years ago, through a local chamber of commerce, I was invited to go and do a high school, senior high school. This is graduation to university class, and do a bit of a careers overview, or what it's like to be out in the big wide world type chat. And it was a government school, but in quite a well-to-do area, so I don't think many of the kids there would have been doing it tough, but they were there. Quite a left-wing, not a screaming sort of radical lesbian teacher, but certainly a teacher with very very pronounced leftist woke social justice sympathies. But it came down to that the girls in the class, when the subject kind of like, what sort of career are you thinking of? How do you want to make money? What do you think you'll do? How are you going to pay for a house? How are you going to buy your first car, and so on. Now some of these had parents who were going to pay for that, or at least give them a good start. So, but just generally on the issue of making money, pretty much all the girls, other than some rather butchy ones, but pretty much all the girls dreamed of this idea of meeting a rich Hollywood gazillionaire and helping him spend all his money. They perceived that was the primary career objective. The idea of having to work hard and sweat and save and go without and save your pennies and all that sort of stuff, that was viewed as, no, I don't want that lifestyle. The hard work, late nights at the office, no, you got to be kidding. Cool jobs, like, and a lot of them had done casual sort of or volunteer work for NGOs, and it was lots of cool young kids, and it was yeah, and it was hip, and it was wow, we're changing the world, and Greta Thunberg, and actually it was before her time, but they were all into the cutting edge of coolness, and they wanted to have, as they would see it at least, they wanted to have this cool kids thing where they're going out, they're partying, it's nightclubs, it's hot guys, and it's wow, and they wanted to imagine that the world was like that, which seemed to be about as far from reality as you could possibly imagine. I'm sorry if someone else is paying for all that, but otherwise that lifestyle is going to be quite elusive. I imagine most of them would be living with their folks until they were, into their 30s, given their attitudes to hard work and study and so on. So they these young girls coming through who've known nothing but feminised education. No, that's all they've known. They still want the handsome Hollywood hunk who's super rich. Now they'll accept somebody who's not a Hollywood hunk, but if they've got a decent surplus of cash to spend, that's fine. If they're particularly handsome or good looking or something like that, then they'll accept a lower income if the guy's super hot and so on. So there are various combinations there. Now the boys, by contrast, nearly all of them believed that it was their duty and their role to get out and work hard to apply themselves to get a good job and have a family and provide for them. They thought that sort of thing. So even in spite of the feminised education system, the boys still perceived they should take responsibility for their lives. So that was an interesting sort of thing there. But this concept of wanting to find sort of rich and good-looking guys came a little bit unstuck, because I said, well, what sort of lifestyle do you want to lead? Oh, I want this and I want that, and they started to outdo themselves. So I said, okay, well, how many men are there in the workforce who make that sort of money? And we sort of came up with a number. They're going to need to make up about this much money. Would you agree? Yeah. So how many men in the workforce make that sort of money? Well, about 1 in every 175 male workers are making that sort of money. And there was this sort of shocked look in the around the room when they realised that may be their aspirational lifestyle in terms of a guy to marry, but there are actually very few jobs out there that pay that sort of money, so they're already looking at a very, very small pool of men in the workforce. In the whole, again, 1 out of every 175 workers. So if you look at that, then the chances of meeting someone who's got that sort of income, who is unattached and who likes you and who wants to spend all his money for him, the chances are fairly slim there. So already you're looking at very, very slim odds. So this comes back to you having to actually get out there and do the work yourselves. And this something that went down like a lead balloon. Oh no, I don't want that. I mean, gee whiz. So they still sort of had this fantasy of the Hollywood lifestyle, and these sort of perverse imaginings of a land of endless plenty, where they could act as children really for the rest of their lives and so on. But it was kind of crazy. But this was the thing, and just coming back to the numbers here again, about women wanting to marry men with money and all this sort of stuff. The number of men that could support a middle class lifestyle were in say 1970, 70+% of all full-time jobs offered this sort of lifestyle. But a lifestyle, and that may be at the bottom end of the middle class. It may be a pretty ordinary 3-bedroom house with one bathroom, a very ordinary car in the driveway. Maybe you had a driving vacation 100 miles away to Wildwood, New Jersey, or so. You had. It wouldn't have been a rich lifestyle. It would have been reasonably basic. If you had an older brother or sister or something, you're probably going to wear a lot of hand-me-downs. There was all that sort of stuff. But it's still, you could have had your car, your house, you owned your house, had your annual vacation. You could have all that stuff, even at the bottom end. So 7 out of every 10. Now today the equivalent is less than 2 in 10 have that, and that's generally. And if you're in the big international cities, then it's down to instead of not even 1 in 10, 1 in 20 is now pays that sort of money. Now, sure, there are often 2 incomes in households now, but that just means that children are being deferred, or you're relying on, say, daycare, which is quite expensive in a lot of places, or maybe you've got grandparents or something like that can look after the children. But that aside, the amount of the amount of men who today can subsidise even an ordinary middle class lifestyle. There just aren't the jobs there. There's simply not as many jobs in the West. They don't pay enough, given the cost of living, to provide these opportunities for women to marry up into well-paying, with men with well-paying jobs. There simply aren't the numbers there anymore. So given how few people have, few men have those sort of jobs, the chances of marrying up are fairly slim. Now, there's a lot of affirmative action and a lot of gender quotas which are allocating well-paid jobs to women. Now, sometimes these women are marrying down. They're just say, well, I've got a good job with a lot of money. I might as well find some trophy guy, some hot-looking guy who's maybe a little bit stupid and simple, who I can control, who'll fuck me on demand and all this sort of stuff. So there's that, but there's not as much of that going on. And there are some examples. There's a lady from a very rich family who was given a very cosy, well-paid, prestigious job in one of the big banks, and she married a mentally retarded labourer, but he looked like one of those, he looked like he'd been sculptured by Michelangelo, for goodness sakes. He was sort of like almost a perfect representation, and so she married him and just used him as a trophy, and out at a lunch one day, and again, he's not very bright. He said something, and she just turned to him, patted him on the head in front of everybody, said, "Here, drink this," and just put like a bottle of alcohol in front of him and told him to shut up. So I'm not sure what his life's like, but anyway. So looking at that, there simply aren't the opportunities to marry up. Now, given the constant, endless hysteria, and it's all propaganda about so-called violence against women by wicked, evil men, shouldn't there a law pass where no woman is allowed to date a guy who's bigger than her? The guy's not allowed to be taller. He's not allowed to be heavier, and in that way they could control this thing. The guy will always be smaller, and then when the bigger guys can't procreate, then they'll all die off, and then we'll have this nirvana of equality. So that's something I reckon Kamala Harris should jump on that one and push that. I think it's great. Now, girls, if you date a guy who's taller or heavier than you, you're going to be thrown in damn prison, okay? And that would solve it, I'm sure. I don't know if anyone's really going to go down that path. But coming back to the thing of women marrying up, 50, 60, 70 years ago, women marrying up in terms of income and stability and all this sort of stuff, there were many, many opportunities to do that. Now there are far fewer. In fact, there are very few opportunities in the Western country, and the cost of living is still going up at a much faster rate than wages are and incomes are, and the amount of jobs that can subsidise a decent middle-class lifestyle where there's any sort of reasonable surplus above are just fewer and fewer. And if you want to live in the upper end of the middle class, in big cities like Sydney, you're looking at less than 1% of income earners are earning enough money to be able to live that lifestyle, which is an idea of how things are changing and how this idea of marrying up is becoming in itself a fantasy. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.